Today's show, we have Cimeran Kapoor. Potion was born out of a quest to heal when Cimeran Kapoor was diagnosed with metastatic cancer at the age of 28 during her medical training. After traditional cancer treatments left her feeling hopeless, she became determined to find a way to build back her health, immunity, and spirit. Ayurveda showed her the way home to loving herself and creating health. Marrying her decade plus of research and medical experience, her passion for holistic health, and her childhood in India growing up around Ayurvedic medicine, she crafted the first immunity potion. It was the ultimate expression of love to herself. As you take your potion, may it be your cherished act of love to yourself as well.
Welcome to Simply Walk the Talk. Our bodies and minds adapt to what we do most of the time. If you want to change your body and mind, you must change what it is you do most of the time. This podcast explores all things health, wellness, fitness, lifestyle, and biohacking. Stay tuned as we explore various thoughts, methods, and experiences from a multitude of conversations between our interesting guests and experts through many fields of work. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Simply walk the talk. Simply walk the talk.
Cimeran Kapoor, welcome to the show.
Hi, so happy to be here.
Yes, this is. I mean, I kind of say this a lot, but truthfully and very authentically, I'm so happy to have you here because this is one of those episodes where I feel like it was fate that we met. And, we haven't physically met in person, but we have, right? Like, it's like, I feel like we have.
I mean, I think we've explored the depths of the universe and back. Yeah.
Well said. Yeah. And this was all kind of spurred from a great conversation that you and I had when I was in Budapest, and we jumped on a call, and I distinctly remember I was, I think it was it just my son? Yeah. I was walking my son in the stroller, had just gotten him asleep. I was thinking we might have to push the call, but he was just sleeping beautifully. And we had a wonderful conversation. And then that led to me actually getting a chance to try out Immunity Potion. So we're going to be talking about how this was developed, why it's important, and how each of you can get your hands on this as well. So I would love to start with, let's talk about your background, because in that intro, there was a lot to uncover there, right? And so I'd love to hear your story, and let's see why and how you got to where you are and where you're going to take this in the future.
It's a long history in healthcare and medicine. I was born in San Francisco, and at the age of 5, my family decided to move to Bombay, India, across the world. And that's because my grandparents all lived there. They really wanted to expose us to the culture and the heritage and family and the languages, because I think at that time, because they had immigrated to the US, they were afraid of us not being in touch with our culture, which is a very real thing. And so we went to India, and I remember the first few hours there were life-changing to me. And that's because there is so much poverty in India that doesn't exist in the US. You're not seeing homeless people everywhere, and I think it was just very overwhelming for my little heart. As someone who is very empathetic, I was really shocked to see children younger than me just on the sidewalk and begging, like literally begging on every window of cars on the traffic lights for like their own existence. And I remember for those first couple of years, just feeling like, wow, what is the world that we live in? Does everyone just drive injustice by? Like, I'm the only one who feels this way. And my mom saw it in me. And my mom is also a very heart-centered human being. And she instilled the practice of seva in us. So seva is a Sanskrit word for selfless service. And so she taught us every few weekends, we would go to different ashrams, or we would, work with different programs to feed the homeless, to feed young children. And it was something that was really soothing to my soul. So we continued to do practices like that. She enrolled us in different programs so that we can really flex this, community service seva muscle. And as I got older, this became like core to the fabric of who I am, is that, you know, there are people in the world who really care about helping other people, and I knew that was me. And so that's the journey I went on. And I was like, well, I don't know if that can be a job, community service. And, Indian. So my parents obviously kept saying, doctor, lawyer, engineer, but my parents really wanted me to be a doctor because they saw this helper sort of quality. So I kind of went down that path. I did a lot of, as you can imagine, being an Indian kid, trying to go to the top schools and that sort of thing because your parents put a lot of pressure on you. We moved back to the US and I was doing every extracurricular that had to do with science or with community service or helping disadvantaged students. And I made my way to Berkeley and I was trying to figure out my major, and public health really stuck out to me because it was how to influence the health of large populations. Right? It wasn't something similar to medicine, which is you go into the hospital and you're caring one-on-one. And so I was like, this is an amazing science and this is amazing education. But in that journey, I learned your zip code and your education determine your life expectancy. And that one fact
Mm.
then changed the course of my career again, which was I need to go into understanding education and how students who are living in these poor communities without good education, how that's actually going to determine their health. And then in particular, what if they already have a health condition? What if they already have a learning exceptionality? And so I did Teach for America. I was a special education teacher, probably one of the hardest jobs I've ever done. And just understanding that ecosystem of how is our government, how is the community, how are the teachers in the schools to the doctors in the clinic, how are they impacting a child and their health? It wasn't great what I saw. And so I was like, okay, it's time for me to switch and understand what is the medical side doing about this. And so I spent the next few years as a researcher, as a board member of the public health department, and then also building a clinic for UCSF that was a multidisciplinary clinic to understand all the different perspectives. How can you help a child or their family be empowered to take agency in their health and to find this path on their journey of healing? The one thing that really stuck out to me is in those jobs that I had, I would spend hours on the phone because I would see in the hospital, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. We have thousands of patients. And if a patient isn't advocating for themselves, they're not actually getting their needs met, what themselves or in their community or the care system. And I remember like spending so much time on this. And at that time, my parents were like, are you ever going to be a doctor? And I was like, yes, I'm going to be a doctor. But I'm trying to understand like what the problem is, because if I don't understand what the problem is, how am I going to be that person to change the problem? And I do love that I've always had that in me. I don't know where it came from, but I always felt like my mission, I had a mission since I was 5, and that was like I wanted to help change how the world takes care of people, how we take care of ourselves. And so I was like, I am going to change this. And I remember going into medical school. At first, I wanted to be a pediatrician, but I remember during my days at UCSF listening to a bunch of doctors talking about how primary care is like the janitors of the industry. And it dawned on me that, oh my God, there's even a hierarchy in medicine. And of course there is, but it didn't really click with me until that time. And I was like, well, if I want people to take me seriously, then I have to be a surgeon. I have to be like a published researcher. I need to do all these checkbox things so that I could be valid as someone who could be a leader. Like it was just, a defined path is what I thought. So I went into medicine, super type A, super like competitive. And I was actually miserable inside. And one day, it was 2 weeks prior to this day, I'd been sick with the flu and I wasn't quite recovering. But I remember being very tired in class and they're talking about the head and neck exam. And that's the type of surgeon I wanted to be. So I propped up, got myself energized, and I was like, all right, this is the exam that you're going to be the expert in, like, let's go. And I remember they did breakout groups and I'm practicing with different students medical students in my breakout group. And I feel something in my neck, and then I feel my partner, and then I feel my neck again. And I was like, something doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel normal. So I had my
Mm.
professor come over and she's like, well, you were just sick. It could be inflamed, lymph nodes. And I was like, well, my thyroid feels like huge. She's like, well, if you're scared, you could always like get a blood test. And I was like, all right, what else? Like, what if the blood test shows something? Well, then you could get an ultrasound. I was like, okay, well, what if the ultrasound shows something? She's like, well, then you would get a biopsy. And so I was like, okay. I knew from my 10 years at that point in medicine that if I needed to get these things done, the wait times. I mean, I was just on the phone with, UCSF trying to get an appointment, and they're like, your doctor's booked out until February 2025. Like that is just standard, right? And so I was like, okay, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, let's go. And so I actually lied to my doctor and I said, my professors are very worried about me. I need to get in immediately for all these things. And so I got the blood test back. It was like kind of off. So then I did an ultrasound. And within 30 minutes of getting that ultrasound done, the radiologist calls and, he'd already been on the phone with my primary care. And he said, I know we haven't done a biopsy or anything, but from the looks of it, it looks like you have cancer. It looks serious and it looks like it's everywhere that we have scanned. And my life
Oh,
changed like that. From trying to be the healer, the doctor, the person that takes care of you. Now I'm the patient and I'm fighting for my life. It was such a drastic switch. And it's put into question since that journey, it's put into question everything that I have learned, everything that I've internalized. Um, Everything that I am to kind of strip away. And it's been this process of, first unlearning to relearn, but then also stripping away everything that is not me to become my full self. And I can tell you with so much certainty in my heart that cancer was the best thing that ever happened to me, even though it was scary, even though it was serious, even though it was traumatic, even though it was painful, even though there was so much suffering and discomfort. The wound is the place where the light enters you, and that was certainly true for me. And cancer has given me a second lease on life. It's given me a second chance at loving myself. It taught me that I am worthy of love, especially from myself. It's taught me that I can love myself as a work in progress. And that is just life. Like life is the process of becoming, and you're never done with it. So why not
mm.
love yourself here and now, just as you are, and know that you're going to continue to get there and you're going to love yourself every step of the way. And that is my new mission, is to help heal the world. It's the same mission, but the energy that I bring to it is so different, because what I realized is that power does not exist outside of you. It exists inside of you. It exists in nature, because we are nature. There's something that kind of holds all of us. And so I named my company Potion because, to me, the whole process of even how Potion, the company, Potion, the product, um, Potion, the brand, was born, is it was magical. What's inside the bottle is magical. When I take it, it's magical. Like the whole process is, and I think life is magical. So that's the summary of who I
Wow.
am and what I'm doing now.
So I have to say, and apologies if there's a delay here, because I think, as we talked about in the very beginning, there may be a bit of there might be a bit of a Wi-Fi lag. Um, but I know that it's recording locally on your side, and so fortunately, even though it's hard to hear some of the stories you've explained, I've had the great opportunity to talk to you on the phone, so I'm well aware of all of that. But if there's any point where you don't hear my questioning or my responses, please let me know, and we'll make sure to get it going properly.
Okay, yeah.
Um, so one of the things I respect about you, among many things, is that you took this diagnosis, so to speak, and although you didn't allow it to define who you are, you did allow it to to be this beacon of light for everything else that you do in your life, and to build this amazing brand. And you've done it by your bootstraps. You are, as you said before, you're a one woman show, and you're not afraid to ask for help. But even that wasn't easy to come by. Can we talk about that a little bit? Because I know that was something we talked about before we started recording, was this new understanding of being okay to ask for help.
Yeah. It did cut off for a little bit. So for the question is how the process of Potion was born in
Mhm.
particular.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
And
was yeah, go for it.
well, yeah. So basically, like I was complimenting you on the fact that you built this from the ground up, and you allowed, I think, a situation in which most people would just kind of go into their shell and not create anything, and yet you went the opposite and created something to kind of help others because you saw it helped yourself.
Mhm.
Can you talk about that and the importance of asking for help?
Yeah, so Potion wasn't my first foray into business and entrepreneurship. It's actually my second business since cancer. So when I had to leave medicine and drop out because of all the cancer treatments, which then obviously weren't working because the cancer got worse, and I was very frightened. So 2019, I was diagnosed in 2018. 2019, things are not looking good, and I remember being in the hospital for just a ton of different symptoms after second round of nuclear radiation. And I knew intuitively that I didn't want to do it, and I did it anyway because my family was so scared, in particular my father. And so I went against my intuition and I did a treatment again that didn't work the first time, but we thought it was a fluke, and so we did it again. And I remember thinking, out of so much fear, oh my goodness, I want to live. Like, maybe there was a part of me that didn't fully take the cancer seriously. I don't know if this has happened to anyone else who has a serious diagnosis. I think I was a bit delusional. Maybe there was a little bit of an ego in there of like, I'm going to survive this, right? Because I have to help heal the world. Like, I'm a good person. I care deeply. Like, there's no way universe, bigger, higher power would do that to me because I am so committed. I'm so dedicated to helping the world that there is no way that it would do this. I'm so sincere about that. And not everyone is, there's most people don't care, right? That's what I kept seeing. It's like, no, most people don't give a crap about doing things for other people and progressing the world. So of course life wouldn't do that to me. And then things got serious, like more serious than they already were. And I was like, oh crap, maybe I'm delusional. I was building a tech company, probably like 8 months after my diagnosis. I started working on it. Like, I'd already had seeds in it. Maybe I was working on it, like thinking about it from the hospital bed, but I had this idea of like, okay, how could we own our health information? And it's always the same mission, as you can see, like no matter what I've done, it's like, how can people take charge of their life and their health? How can we make a healthier, happier world? And the truth is, what actually helped me heal was not data collection and analyzing my sleep pattern and all that stuff. It was getting in tune with myself. It was,
Mm.
like I said, falling in love with myself. It was taking myself seriously and putting myself first. It was putting the oxygen mask on myself. That didn't exist before. And I half-assed that process for the first year and a half after my diagnosis, to be like, okay, checkbox, I'm going to eat clean, and I'm going to do all these things that my health coach, who actually was an Ayurvedic coach, told me to, because my mom forced me to see this Ayurvedic doctor and health coach. But I hated it the whole time. Like, I hated it. Like, I was committed. I stopped the alcohol and all the things that were negative. I stopped the sugar. I was highly addicted to sugar, which, please, everyone, like, really manage your sugar intake. It's so inflammatory. And if you're going to eat sweet stuff, opt for fruit first, opt for nature's candy. Um,
Mm.
Anyway, so I was just like getting rid of all these things, but I wasn't doing it with love. I knew that I had to put it was like when the knowledge is still like in the experience, but it hasn't turned into wisdom because there's that emotional charge to it. So that's what I was going through. And then, it wasn't yielding results. And I decided, my husband and I, we kind of wrote, okay, what is all the things that Simran needs to heal? And we had this whole plan. And it was me taking even more initiative and commitment in my health through Ayurveda. So I hired a different Ayurvedic coach, nutritionist, and she was also a chef, because I was like, I'm hating food now. Like, I don't like food because food is something that is not enjoyable to me anymore. The process wasn't enjoyable. And there were all these herbs and spices that everyone had recommended me taking. And I would try to take it, but I was like gagging the whole time. I just hated the whole process. And so I started, that was actually how Potion was born, is in this journey of trying to fall in love with taking care of myself and putting myself first and doing nature walks and doing things with a different energy. And it's so funny because, so I don't know if I ever told you this, but I did stand-up comedy for my bachelorette. And it was in
Ooh.
2019, and I'd started the Ayurvedic journey. And I was thinking about that this morning because part of the stand-up act was making fun of Ayurveda. And can you believe how life will humble you? Because
Oh yeah.
what am I doing today?
Right,
I
right,
love it so
exactly.
much. I'm on a podcast with you talking about it. But I did stand-up comedy about Ayurveda because my scientist, researcher brain was like, oh, this is woo-woo, but I think this is gonna work, but I don't know I don't know the science behind it. So that's when I started trying to bring the science into, okay, these herbs and spices are actually quite anti-inflammatory. And it's been a formulation for 5,000 years. And starting to integrate it in a way, and my coach would be like, the energy with which you do anything is how you do everything. So I'd start to chant and make this, and I just created this different energy around it and infused it. And she was like, that's the stuff I made fun of in my stand-up, was like blessing it all and blessing it as you're making it. And so anyway, long story short, my tech company is not doing well in a couple of years later, and I don't know what to do. I'm truly, truly depressed. Like, I can say it was one of the lowest moments of my life, including cancer, because for me, the two things that, or the one thing I never questioned, was my mission. And
Mm,
it was just core to me, right? Like, I'm born on this planet to help heal people. And so, like, cancer made me question if I'm worthy of loving myself. And then, my business almost failing or needing to pivot it was me questioning my
wow.
purpose of life. And am I doing the right thing? Like, is caring even right?
Right.
So I asked the universe for help, and I surrendered. My first time in my life, I actually didn't have the answers. I couldn't figure it out. I put in 130%. And I actually thought I was going to get sick again because that's how much energy I put into it. But, I'd been doing Ayurveda for a year and a half at that point, and my cancer marker was going down itself. I
Mm,
wasn't getting any traditional medicine treatments, no conventional medicine treatments. The stuff was the stuff in the bottle, meditation. It was literally things that are basically free or very low cost. But it
right.
was the sincerity and the devotion of really putting myself first and putting my health first and being intentional about it. You ask that question why all the time, right? It was the intentionality behind it, the worthiness. And I asked the universe for help, and the way Potion was born was so magical. Like that, um, I got into Techstars. I didn't apply. So I don't know how that happened. I pitched, and the managing director gave me a spot on the spot, which was the
Mm,
craziest thing. I moved to LA. I pressure tested every idea under the sun of what could I pivot this technology to. So all this effort, all this money, all this time, all these resources wouldn't go waste, because I still thought it was a great idea. And I was so sad because people were still messaging me, patients were still messaging me that we really need this. And I was like, well, if we don't have investment, like, it's an expensive thing to build. And Apple is now building a version of this. It's not quite the same, but a version of this, and I don't know what to do. And you know what people cared about? They cared how I'd healed from cancer. And
right.
when I started talking, it was the first time, you talk about your throat chakra. This is where I got cancer. And now I'm expressing who I am from the
Mm,
core. The parts of me that I had to hide and change because I was in medicine, because it would be woo woo, and me, making it funny that, like, oh, let me laugh at what I'm doing. Let me not, actually own it. and express it and express my truth, because I always knew there was something more to life. And there was this magic in life that I just couldn't express. Like, I couldn't prove it scientifically, I couldn't prove it materially, but I knew it intuitively. And everyone wanted to know what herbs and spices I'd been taking, what I'd been making for myself. And I had some potion that I just gave to mentors, and they loved it. And, Techstars is Techstars, right? They're
Yeah.
not necessarily doing a lot of CPG. And I didn't even know, like, the whole industry of CPG. And just like that, like, I'm not going to say it wasn't work. It was still work. But I can tell you that whole process of those 3 months changed my life, because it was me learning how to surrender to a greater magic that exists. It was me saying, all right, I'm so happy to do the work. I'm not afraid of hard work. I'm not afraid of doing the work that's in front of me. I am afraid of the outcome, and maybe I should detach myself to that. And you take care of the plan. You take care of the control, and I'll just do the work. Like,
Mm,
can we just make that deal? And that's how Potion was born. And we launched. Never
wow.
took investment. After that, like, that was the journey. And now we're launched at Auberge Resorts. We are in Necker Island. We are launched at D2C. We're in various different, and I couldn't even imagine how it would have gone, right? Like, I've just been following the next step, and that's really how I'm building Potion. But there's so much science, and we should get into the science and the research behind it, because this stuff is not woo woo at all. Like, the results speak for themselves. And there's just so much that Western medicine leaves to desire in health and healing, because we're not necessarily participant in it.
And we're back. For those of you that are watching the show, you may notice a different background. That's simply because we had some technical issues, and we wanted to make sure that we gave this the best opportunity for Simran to talk about um, everything there is to talk about with Potion, and she was getting so deep, and I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. So there was a little bit of a lag. Hopefully you guys that are watching and listening don't have to experience that. Gordon can do his magic by making sure this comes out well. And so I think what we'll do now is just jump right back into what we were about to talk about, which is the ingredients and the things that you felt were working well for you. And maybe we can talk about some of the research and the data that you have, because that is going to be important for a lot of people.
Yeah, let's dive right into the research and the data. So, one of the things I think we're really missing in the healthcare system, that 60% of Americans have at least one chronic illness. That means more people in the United States are sick than they are healthy.
Mm,
And it used to be 1 in 4 children. Now that number has gone up. So many of our young children are getting sick at such a young age. And it begs the question, why? Now, there's not one reason why this is happening. There are 100 reasons,
mm,
from environmental toxins and pollutants to our food system, our water system being polluted. Pretty much everything around us is actually causing inflammation in the body. I don't understand why we're not talking about inflammation enough. When I was looking at myself with cancer, it's like, okay, there's no family history here, right? So why did this happen to me?
mm,
Why did this happen to me? And so I really went deep into that. But then I was also like, cancer is a disease caused by inflammation. Inflammation is the root cause of cancer. What that means is that chronic inflammation over time, right, your immune system is not functioning well. Every human being will have a cancer cell that appears. It's just normal, right? A mutation will happen, cancer cell will appear. In a healthy person, your immune system will find it, it'll gobble it up, and it's not an issue. In an unhealthy person, that cell will proliferate, and it'll take all of the energy around it from it'll change the machinery, and it'll cause damage. So that is because the system is probably dealing with so much inflammation that it's unable to sustain itself.
mm.
If you look at the data, it's not just cancer. Most of the diseases that we have today that are contributing to this chronic illness epidemic are inflammatory diseases. Do you know what the number one cause of death actually is when it comes to chronic illness? Inflammation. Inflammation is the most significant cause of death. Over 50% of deaths can be attributed to inflammation. So why is this not the number one thing that we are thinking about?
Right.
Right. And so that's really, for me, it was like, what ingredients are there in nature naturally that are going to help our system? Now, I think you need to eat 32 different types of plants every single week for a healthy diet for your gut microbiome. Your gut flourishes when there is diversity, right? So diversity is a critical factor that we need. And what I loved about Ayurveda, by the way, is it goes from the scientific and cellular level all the way to the philosophical and like vibrational level. Like everything about it is so freaking beautiful. It's like poetic,
Yeah.
Like we can talk about, I can tell you about the gut, I can tell you about the lung, I can tell you about different organ systems, I can tell you what's happening on a cellular level, and then I can go super macro and we can talk on a philosophical level, right? The same thing about diversity of thought, diversity of culture, diversity of experiences. That's what makes us healthy and vibrant, right?
Yeah.
Even on a cellular level, we need that diversity of actions that are happening, right? We don't want the same stagnant energy. We want to create that diversity. That's how a cell flourishes, by the way. There's this play that's involved. If you ever look at an atom, the electrons are just bouncing around all the time, right?
Yeah.
You know that things are in the wrong position when things are going in a pattern that is not random, that is not, just playful.
Right.
Anyway, so I digress, but inflammation is the root cause. Inflammation is the root cause of disease. And so I thought, okay, well, if I want to make my immune system healthy, what can Ayurveda offer me? What can nature offer me? And that's when I came across all of these different herbs and spices that every Ayurvedic doctor was recommending to me. And you'll see it in formulations. This formulation of potion, where is my potion? This formulation of potion is 5,000 years old. How time tested are our pharmaceutical meds? I ask you that question, right?
Right.
You've been, if we think about everything from research perspective, how much more proof do you need than 5,000 years? And so we should be eating certain herbs and spices every single day. And if you want, we can pull up and we can talk about the different herbs and spices that are in potion. What I find, again, it's like so beautiful. You can go to the Meet the Herbs page. So what I find so beautiful, it's rooted in nature, it's rich in culture, but from root to fruit, seed to flower, every part of a plant is present in potion. We've got the seeds of black pepper, of cardamom, of flaxseed. We've got the roots of turmeric, ashwagandha, of ginger. We've got the bark of Ceylon cinnamon. We've got the stem and leaves of giloy. We've got the leaves of tulsi. We've got the flower buds of clove, the flowers of echinacea and passion flower, and the fruit of amla. Isn't that so beautiful?
It is beautiful. And for those of you that are watching this episode, you got a chance to not only hear what Cimeran was just talking about and explaining, but then also visually, I've pulled up her website and I'm sharing the beauty not only of the look of the website, but also you get the examples, and it's very well done, by the way. Whoever's doing your website,
Thank you.
it's very well done. You can tell that you took the time to curate this, and I think the ingredients are very well curated. And like you said, the fact that this is a 5,000 year old formulation, it's like obviously it makes sense. And before we continue, if you don't mind, I want to touch on something, because in my world, what you talked about with inflammatory disease is something that I talk about a lot. And so I will echo what you just mentioned. And one of the things that I do, and now that I have potion, the immunity potion, I've added that into it. But it's grounding and earthing is one of the key things that I use in my world
Mm.
to kind of help quell a lot of this inflammation, knowing that inflammatory disease is at the root of most diseases and
Yep.
most problems we have in our world. And the fact that we are electrical beings first,
Yes.
chemical beings second, it made sense for me to always ground as much as I can, whether I'm outside doing it the natural way or I'm indoors doing it the more modern technological way. But then now adding in potion has also kind of brung it full circle to where I'm doing the electrical part and the chemical part, right? And so that's what's been beautiful about this. Yeah.
I love that so much. And I think the grounding aspect is so important. Sorry, that's my dog.
Hi,
Because
doggy.
we come from nature, right? And the science is actually proving it. I remember when people used to think it was so woo woo to walk barefoot on the earth, but as you said, we're bioelectrical beings.
Yeah.
Right? We actually need that negative charge that happens. And actually, so, you talk about grounding. That's why I started dry brushing with an ionic copper dry brush. And I have one here.
Oh, yeah.
It's like my favorite. It is the best dry brush on the market. And I'm not just saying that because it's potions. We have some of the most luxury spas in the world who are using it and saying that as well, because this is made of copper alloy. And it has the same effects as walking barefoot on Mother Earth. And you can read some of that stuff here. But yeah, this is what I use for lymphatic drainage. So your body has about 600 to 800 lymph nodes. Your lymph nodes are the sites where your immune cells hang out. And basically what they're doing in your lymphatic system is, I'm sure you know how for anyone who is listening who doesn't know how, your fluid system in your body works, from your blood vessels, basically from your arteries to your veins, you've got this mesh of capillaries, right? And so from one side, the pressure differential, it's pushing out fluid and nutrients into your tissues. And then on the vein side, it's picking up the other thing, the fluid back in. But when it's hanging on your tissues, there's going to be a lot of fluid that is left over, right? That's what causes that sort of bloating and stuff if you're not getting rid of it. How do you get rid of it? How do you get it back into the blood system? Through the lymph system.
Yep.
And the lymph system is super, super important because, again, what did I say? That's where your immune cells hang out. So they're sampling and they're taking up this fluid and they're sampling what are the toxins out there, what's going on in the body, right? You need that fluid to move so that it can reach your different lymph nodes. Now, when I got my surgery done, almost 200 of my lymph nodes were removed due to cancer.
Oof.
That's more than a fourth of your body's lymph nodes, right? So I said, that's a problem. That means, again, I care about my immunity. I care about inflammation in my body. So I started dry brushing because they've been using dry brushing in Ayurveda for over 5,000 years. Now you'll see it all over Goop and you'll see all the influencers using it. Dry brushing is a thing. But you want to have a copper dry brush because it's vegan, but also, as we talked about, it actually has a grounding effect. So you will be energized like no other if you dry brush with this brush, because it has the same effects with the negative ion transfer on the surface of your skin. So you'll feel very calm, but also super energized. And I think you were telling me about Vivo Barefoot, right? And how it has a similar science to it. Like, I think what's so wonderful about today is that we have these different technologies and tools that we can use to help us, some that have been around for 5,000 years with materials like that, and some that are up and coming to change and help us connect more with Mother Earth. Us wearing shoes has really changed how we even walk or gait. And a lot of those, we're changing. And as we're getting more disconnected, living in higher concrete buildings, away from the ground, we need ways to ground ourselves. I don't think anything, I think whether it's dry brushing or it's Vivo Barefoot, I don't think anything is going to replace actually spending time in nature,
Exactly.
being in nature and being around nature. But there are ways that even if you're living in a concrete jungle, that you can make sure you're still grounding yourself.
Well said. And also, just to go back on the dry brushing and the ionic copper bristle brush that you have, one of the things that I think many people can at least understand when you were speaking about the fluids in the body and how they get trapped or they don't get released well enough is cellulite, right? And cellulite is one of those things where if a person properly does, if they clean up their diet and they do everything right and they add in dry brushing, it's one of those things that you kind of magically see go away,
Yes.
right? And that's because you're enhancing that lymph flow, and you're also getting rid of those pockets of, it's like dimples on the body, right? You want to get it to release.
And I've seen that. I've seen that for myself. I've also seen it with exfoliation of, I had a couple of scars on my legs that have been there since I was a child, and I can barely see them anymore. So it's kind of crazy. I think when you really work on your immune system, what I found really lovely is I obviously love, makeup and skincare, and I love going to Sephora and those sort of things. And what I realized is that no makeup or skincare is as good as taking care of your immune system. Can I show you my scar?
Please.
Can you even see it? It goes from behind here all the way down. And I used to scar, you can kind of see it, but I used to scar
Wow.
so badly. They were afraid that this would be keloidal. And, I was like, oh my God, I like turtlenecks fashion wise, but do I have to wear turtlenecks for the rest of my life? I'm only wearing it today because I really do like turtlenecks, not because, it's not even something that I'm picking up and seeing all the time in the mirror. And when I do, I love it. But that's the power of your immunity. That's the power of doing things like dry brushing and eating well. And when you focus on your inner health, you will radiate from within, right? My skin has never been better than me taking care of my immune system.
Well, one of the things I love about your approach and how you're running your company and all that you do is that, there's like, if we take any product, whether it's a physical product like a jump rope or whatever, or we take, the immunity potion here, if we were to just place that on a shelf and ask someone to use it, they would think like, okay, it's supposed to help me. But then you go beyond that. You go steps beyond that and say, why don't you become more intentional around the things that you use? And this is the reason why I like to ask why a lot, because I want to get to the root of the intentions of what we're utilizing, what we're using, what we're putting into our body, what we're doing to our body and our minds, right? And so one of the things that I love about this is that on the website and in the packaging, by the way, it's amazing and beautiful. If any of you want to see what I'm talking about, just go to my Instagram. You'll see I have a Instagram reel that I posted and how I use this. And you encouraged me to do it that way. And so I took the card that comes in the box, and I also looked on the website because I like to do my research. And there's a mantra that you're encouraged to speak, to really think about when you're taking this. And it's like, I almost treat this as like my meditation potion, right? And if you do this a couple times a day, not only are you getting the benefits of the ingredients, this
All the
formulation.
science is there, baby. All the science is there. And we can talk more about the science, by the way. But
Please.
yes, all the science is there, but the magic is also within you. And that's the
That's right.
reason, that is the reason for everything that I'm doing, is we are marrying soul and science.
Yeah.
What's in the bottle is magical because of all of the ingredients from nature. And like you say, and I really appreciate that you do recognize that, I'm about less is more. I think we're too saturated as a world, as an ecosystem. It's too much. We're being fed. I mean, I remember I had like 20 supplements and medicines by my bedside. And every time I turned over this first couple of years, it just made me feel more sick. I was like, I'm a sick person who, this is my life now. This is my life now. I got into that. And now I have two bottles. One, because I don't have I don't have a thyroid anymore. So I'm still on thyroid meds. And the second one is my potion. And I look at that and I look at this and I'm like, God, this makes me feel so like sexy and alive. And it's just something that it's like brimming with life force and vitality. So when I take, and it tastes delicious. Like for me, I
It
wanted
does.
to create a sensorial experience. I was like, how can we make people, how can I fall in love with myself and taking care of myself? This is an act of self-love. And with the most beautiful thing that we have seen is that families are taking it together and parents are teaching their children, and the children are begging for potion every day, and they do the ritual together. Couples are doing the ritual together. It's the most beautiful thing I have ever seen and experienced. The magic exists within the bottle. And let me tell you a little bit about the pandemic. So I had to launch this company, and I launched it, after the first few years of the pandemic. But I had been using these ingredients since before the pandemic, and I'd seen my own results. I'd seen these are all research-backed ingredients. I'd seen this formulation. So I started taking it because I believed and I wanted to heal. And then the whole mess of like me having to pivot my business happened. And it took so much for me to make that move of surrender, right? I have to surrender to something greater. But you realize I was hiding who I was up until that point. So me starting to vocalize that it was Ayurveda that healed me. And now being pushed to be like, by the way, you have to be front and center. Your story is going to be the story of the brand. What you used is going to be on full display for the world to see. And the scientist, researcher part of me is like, 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 oh my God, everyone's going to think you're woo woo. Like, this is the new you, like, and surrender to it. And you know what helped me during that time is I started doing the research again. I'm like, okay, I have to create these decks. I have to share about, my potion. And so much research had come out in COVID because there was no vaccine in the first year, right? So for the first time, you know that pharmaceutical medicine is not incentivized to study natural medicine. And there's actually something called the Flexner Report, which talks about Rockefeller and how he influenced the medical industry. And a lot of people don't know about this, but this is the truth and reality of how Eastern natural medicines were pushed aside. That was actually the primary mode of medicine across the world. And it was something that worked. Again, the difference between them, we can go into why they're different. They're both effective in their own ways, but that was the primary force of medicine. And it was quite competitive with the new age conventional medicine, which was research backed. I mean, they were not incentivized. They're using the compounds. A lot of the pharmaceutical meds are using compounds that they're finding in nature, and then they're manipulating them. But what happened during that time is because of COVID, we wanted any cure, any treatment, any prevention. Let's research anything. And India took full advantage. And all these papers started coming out. And guess what the government of India was recommending to their citizens to take at that time? This Ayurvedic medicine of all these different herbs and spices. So here I am finding pockets of them used together and being studied. And I was like, oh my goodness. Wow, universe.
That's huge.
You're giving me more ground to stand on, that it wasn't just my own research. It's the whole thing is just, it's been pretty magical to kind of see the world changing its opinion. And I love when we question ourselves and we ask why we do the things that we do and why we think the things that we think. I think the biggest issue is that we've gone against our own biology. We've gone against nature. There's been so much fear promotion and fear mongering in healthcare and medicine that we have started to fear our own biology. We've actually started to fear our own power. We've actually started to fear nature, which is the craziest things. People are so hyped up about like, oh, what's it going to mean if I take this herb or this spice? It's been used for 5,000 years, baby. You're going to be okay.
Right.
You're,
Right.
you're like this is actually what we're meant to do. We're meant to forage. We're meant to grow our own foods. These things are healing, and we've been taught to fear it, right? Because we're taking all these meds and it could interact. I think one thing I do want to mention about pharmaceutical meds, I'm not anti them at all, right? I think we need both, but I think we're so skewed in the wrong direction. Western medicine does very well for acute care, but there's not a lot of money in that. There's a lot of money in chronic illness, because what is chronic illness? Chronic illness is you being a lifelong patient. And the incentive is the earlier you have the illness, the more money you can make off of you. So you're seeing it in the data, baby.
Yep.
Young children are now chronic illness patients from birth onwards. And it's because we're not working with nature, we're working against nature. We're polluting it, we're eradicating it. I mean, if you think about the way we're looking at nature and treating nature, that is what is causing us to get sicker and more divided and more isolated.
Mm,
So on the philosophical level to the cellular level, I think a lot of us are realizing that we actually have so much more power to heal than we were made to believe, that it's actually simple. It's just not easy, but it is
mm,
simple. It comes down to sleep, it comes down to nutrition, it comes down to stress, it comes down to movement, and it comes down to relationships. These are your 5 pillars of your health.
mm.
Again, very simple, but just not easy in today's world when we're valuing things so differently. I'm sure you
Yeah.
saw this is one more thing I was gonna say. I'm sure you saw the Ambani wedding this week,
Oh, yes, yes.
the $600 million wedding. And he is, Mukesh Ambani is not in good health. And it made me think, it doesn't matter how rich you are, or how successful you are, whether it's Steve Jobs, whether it's Mukesh Ambani, whether it's a guy who spends $2 million a year to hack his health to get younger.
Brian Johnson.
You cannot put a price on your health. You cannot pay for it. You could be the richest man in the world, but you can't buy it.
Nope.
Isn't that something that we should be focusing on and paying more attention to?
Absolutely. I one of the things that I think is important to discuss, especially given we're talking about something that is as simple as a potion, as a formulation that's been around for 5,000 years. Um, Also, something as simple as a mantra and encouraging people to ground and to sleep and all these things is that we've we've been so far skewed to thinking that doctors in the medical system are going to heal us that we end up pointing the fingers at certain companies or certain products that don't quote unquote work for us when really we need to take our own power, right? We need to believe, and as esoteric as that might sound, there's belief in and speaking words like a mantra, so to speak, right? And if we, like, I'm sure there's going to be people who take this and probably never do the mantra. Fine, because like you said, like, there's magic in the bottle, but just imagine how much more magical it will be if you add that belief, right? And one of the things I always like to ask people whenever we get to conversations like this is, rather than to think what's the worst that can happen to me, how about think what's the best that can happen to me,
Oh, yes. Bravo. I agree.
you
I
know?
concur completely.
Because that's
All
just a
these
framing, you know?
It's a framing. It changes everything. I used to live in, not to say I don't still have a lot of fear that I'm getting over, guilt and shame, but those are emotional vibrations that will keep you very small. And the whole job of the human experience and becoming is to alchemize all of that pain, all that fear, all that guilt, all that shame, and to change that perspective. Because it all is perspective at the end of the day. Right.
Mm,
I love that you said, what's the best thing that could happen to me? What
yeah.
if I heal? When I was told you're never going to be rid of this, you're going to have cancer for the rest of your life. You're going to have to get treatments for the rest of your life. And those will probably kill me. Right. That's really what kills a lot of people. It's not necessarily, I mean, some cancer is, you find it at a really aggressive stage. Mine was quite aggressive, but it's the treatments. We're not talking about the fact that chemotherapy makes $9 billion a year. But it's so toxic. Yes, it kills the cancer, but it kills everything else.
Yeah,
Right.
you said it earlier. You said nuclear radiation, I think you said. Is that what
Yep.
would you call it?
Yep. It was nuclear radiation. And
Yeah.
I was bioactive. I was not allowed to be around anyone. I had to isolate myself. So this is pre-COVID when I was doing this radiation. You have to be isolated because you could be a threat to other people. If I could be a threat to other people when I've done this radiation, what is happening inside me?
Right. Exactly. And that takes away that connection and relationship piece that you talked about when you said the 5 pillars, right? Like, when you can't be around other people, you need to isolate. Same thing similarly happened in the pandemic. We saw just how detrimental it is to be isolated, right? We obviously, everyone needs to do their part and to try to help the greater population and not get sick. But do we recognize just how detrimental it was when we were not able to go and physically see our family, physically see our friends, our loved ones, right? It was more just as detrimental as COVID itself, right?
It was.
So
I mean, there's research around the children, right, who weren't able to socialize properly, and the fact that we're the most connected with our phones, but we're the most disconnected from each other.
that's
We're the
right.
most disconnected from nature. Right? We have everything at our fingertips, but we're not connected to our nature, to nature in general. It's very simple. There's simple ways that we're going to heal. It's just not easy.
Right.
It does take that, what you said, intentionality, that sincerity, that devotion. And I think that we're starting to see that change. We're starting to see people come alive. I think these sort of experiences, you can either spiral down or spiral up. And I choose to spiral up. And that's just my philosophy, is that now it's not that bad things don't happen to me or hardship doesn't happen to me. It actually happens all the time. I've just been going through another, you know, dark night of the soul, but I love them now, because now I'm like, well, how am I going to alchemize this to my next highest consciousness, my next highest truth? How
Mm,
can I use this to better myself? Because the journey, as we said, never ends. And so you can take that and be like, oh man, sometimes I feel that way. The journey never ends. Like, can we just like, but that's just life, right? And so now it's kind of like surfing. Either you're like just always bracing yourself for the great way, or you just ride them all. Just ride them all. And you keep getting back up and down. And now it's just like, I kind of live in the middle. That's the existence that I've been able to create for myself, which I really love. No matter if a really big, you know, successful thing happens for my business or my personal life, of course it makes me happy. Or something really hard happens, I get a really challenging email or things like that. But I am in the middle now because I'm just riding it all. But it's just a journey of life. And am I just getting closer to the woman who I know I can be? And the healthiest person, happiest person I know I can be. Again, what we talked about, like, you cannot put a price on love. You cannot put a price on family. You cannot put a price on community. You cannot put a price on health. These things are invaluable. They're the intangibles in life. And we are starting to focus so much more on the material, the tangible, that we have lost perspective of what actually matters.
mm. What is the next wave for Potion and for your company? What is the next thing that you're sort of working on, or what are some challenges you have ahead that you're looking to break through?
So we are focused on, when everything is so shallow and surface, I think it's important for us to go deeper. And that's something I'm exploring a bit more, deepening our relationship with nature and Mother Earth. I just visited Kerala this year because we're actually building relationships with, you said everything we do is intentional. Yes, we're going to have future potions come out, but I believe in less is more. We have one hero potion. Why? Because I
Mm,
want people to focus. So distracted with everything that we need to do. Everyone wants more, 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 more.
well said.
You need less, right? And so even with this potion, making it better and better and better and deeper, deepening our relationship with farmers, with Mother Earth, so we can create a give back cycle and a give back circle. Because if we're getting so disconnected from nature and we're treating nature so disrespectfully, that's the thing that actually heals. In Kerala, birthplace of Ayurveda, it's the southern tip of India. It's so lush and green and beautiful. The biodiversity of healing herbs and spices are so vast, it doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. So I'm trying to figure out ways that we can preserve that nature,
I
because we
love
need
that.
it. We need it as a planet. Black pepper comes from there. cardamom comes from there. So there's so many different healing herbs and spices that come from Kerala. And so we're working on ways that we can deepen our relationship with farmers and soil health, because soil is what actually transfers the nutrition over. And so we are an organic certified company and brand. It was really important to me to do all these things because every part of nature has healing potential, but we're also like, with fertilizer and with different chemicals that we're putting on the soil, our food is getting more nutrient poor, and we want nutrient rich food to just be buzzing with vibration. And then it's deepening the connection with self-love. We've launched at different luxury resorts and spas like Auberge. It's deepening our relationship with them, deepening our relationship of how we can be on this luxurious, amazing healing journey, but still making it accessible to everyone. Because I want health to be something you see the branding and you see, like, I love that aspect so much. I think that the way I see the world is I find it so beautiful. So I want to create more beautiful things. I want to create more beauty and I want to show more beauty. So it's even deepening that relationship with self-love, and our next products will be along that line as well. So I'm excited. I'm excited about what
Mm.
the future holds, and deepening our relationship with our community and the things that we do, deepening the education and the activation around activating the magic within you.
It sounds like there may be a retreat of some sort in Kerala at some point, because like I want to go now. And who knows, maybe we
Really
can speak
interesting.
that into the universe. But
It's really is. I mean, the reverence that they have there for nature and Mother Earth is unlike anything I've ever seen. Like
wow,
that is the traditional system of medicine there. That is the first line of defense. Actually, they don't have a lot of pharmaceutical medicines there. It's pretty amazing, and everyone's so healthy. Everyone is so healthy.
interesting. Yeah, I definitely want to check it out, because for one, I've never been to India and it's always been on my list. And I think we talked about this when I was on the phone with you previously, but it's definitely, I feel the draw, the pull to be there. And now that you're talking about it, it's like, oh, it's on my list. In fact, I don't know if you saw on my social media, but I put up this world travel map on my wall, and it was so cathartic is not the right word, although it was cumbersome putting all the different pieces in the right place and measuring it and sticking it on the wall. But what it gave me was a direct representation of where I want to go, places I've been in the world and places I want to go. And whenever I put up India, I just remembered, like, yeah, I'm going to be there someday. I think I even said that when my friend was recording a video, because I'm going to put out a video of it. But let's keep that in mind,
You should go.
because
Yeah.
right, like it could be something cool to be done there. Um, one of the things I would love to know, because I feel I feel very excited to get to know you more. And as I'm looking at you and hearing you, and you're very well spoken and you're very beautiful, and I think more people should be fortunate like I am to be able to interact with you. One of the things I would love to know is, what's one thing that you love most about yourself?
Ooh. What a beautiful question. It's taken so long to even fall in love with myself, to feel worthy of that love. I think I think that it's part of it is, I would say, like, my mission, but I think it keeps me going. I think, I've talked to a lot of people. I live in the Bay Area. It's a very aggressive culture. It's all and I am very ambitious too, right? Like, I
I
have
can
big
tell.
dreams. I have big, big dreams of what I want to accomplish in this world. But I think what I love the most is I found that I feel like I'm the co-creator of my life. I'm co-creating with nature, right? I'm co-creating with the universe. And what I love is I found myself starting to find myself so deeply that I'm so excited for every day of my life. And I don't think it will ever stop. I think that my mission kept me really going, and aggressively so in the beginning, obviously pursuing medicine and all the things. I want to be the best, best, best. But now it's like the energy that I've changed is like I've always kept going, but now I'm so excited about the journey. And I don't think I'm ever going to retire. You know, this culture here, everyone talks about what's your number and like, you know, what do you want so that they can just be done. And I don't think I ever want to retire. I truly just like, I love what I do. I love exploring myself. I'm excited to continue to get better. You know, what I was yesterday is not who I am today, like even on a daily basis.
Right.
Even through the hardship, I think that's what I love most about myself is that giving up is not in my fabric.
Mm.
I've been kicked and like, you know, punched and fallen down so much, but it's not in my nature. And I love that about myself. I'm in awe sometimes. I'm like, wow, what is where did that come from? I
Yeah.
love it. And that's why I say maybe I'm a co-creator of my life because I think there's something that's been pulling me. And I'm also so grateful for that.
It's important to recognize, and so that's why I like to ask questions along that line. And I think what also comes to mind, because again, I get the opportunity to see you, but for those that don't get a chance to see you, what would you identify as your best physical attribute?
My best physical attribute. Um, ooh. I think it's can I say 3 things? Because it
Of
kind of
course.
it's like I think I don't know if this is, like, physical, but I think it's it's like I think about the chakras, and I think it's so 4, 5, 6, that it's very strong in me. It's the vision that I've always had that people around me can't see, you know, for a long time, l people just kind of thought I would amount to nothing. I've heard that even from, you know, whatever it was that they and I you can't force someone to believe in you. But I've it's not that I believed in myself, it's that I believed in this vision that I see that exists in the world and that I know I'm going to play some sort of part in bringing alive. The next is so that's the vision part, which is here and I guess like through your eyes, physical and physical. And then it's here where I got cancer and I have been able to move through how to express myself in the world. I do think I have a gift and I think it's because they all kind of work together. And then the next is my heart. Is sometimes I cry about this, and I'm like, "Am I built wrong? Like, why do I care so much? Like, I wish I didn't. Sometimes I wish I didn't care so much." But I think my capacity to love is is pretty deep, and
Mm.
I think that's why, like, it's a well that I just keeps going down, and I keep kind of deepening. So I think the combination of the three are the I would call them the physical attributes that I bring to the world is like, you know, the care that I put in, the way I express the ideas and vision that kind of I want to connect with people.
Mm. I love asking that question to people like yourself because you're so humble in that a lot of times people that are humble in this way find it difficult to praise anything physical, something that we aren't necessarily um, that we don't work to get. Maybe I mean, if we brush our teeth, yeah, we have white teeth and clean teeth and things like that. Um, and so sometimes there's a disconnect. And so if you had asked me that question, you know, what do I think is the number one physical attributes to Cimeran? I would say would be your eyes and your smile. And I say this not to make you feel uncomfortable or to flirt or anything like that, but just to get people to understand that sometimes what others see in us in someone else is just as powerful as what we feel. And so
Mhm.
if we can grow that, right, we can enhance that because I imagine you like makeup to accentuate the eyes a little bit more, right? You brush your teeth, I'm sure, so you make your teeth look nice and white and things like that. And it's worth mentioning, right? It's worth attaching to. And it doesn't have to define you, but
Yeah.
it's just one of those things that allows us because like sometimes if someone were to ask me that, I would say my hair because my hair represents such a journey. And this
Yeah.
is what we do in the world of locks, right? And some people call them dreadlocks, and I like to to correct them and say that it's not dreadful. It's not a dreadful process, right? We call it locks because it shows this journey, and I could show a person from like when my hair wasn't as great, down here, to when
Yeah.
it's gotten a lot better. And so that just shows my journey of health and the care that I take in myself. So that's why I ask it. I know it's probably a out of the box question, but it's fun.
Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah. I've actually never answered that question before.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could go deep in the weeds of like weird questions. And this is what I do with my friends, people that I bring into my world. I love to ask the questions beyond how
Yeah.
did you get your company? Where did it start? It's all very important.
Yeah.
But I also like
It's,
to
it's
know,
also it's also it's also how we see ourselves, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's interestingly, I I never found myself beautiful
that's what I
until
want to get to.
yeah, I never found myself beautiful because so I remember thinking like it was almost like a head and my body were like floating in different places and I felt so disconnected from myself. I grew up you know acne, braces, frizzy hair, all that stuff, and I think I felt invisible. There are often times when I would walk through life even as an adult where I don't I think I walk and I think that people don't even like it's almost like I feel like I'm invisible. And as I'm starting to see myself and love myself, I feel like I have a place in this world. And it's very interesting because, of course, people will pick up on physical attributes. And I think a lot of that comes with low self confidence or low self worth. And so many of us experience those things because of our upbringing or our childhood or traumas that we might have experienced or emotional disturbances
Shame.
and shame and guilt and all those things. And I remember, like, I do visualizations, that sort of stuff. And it took me a really long time to remember what I look like. Like, I know it sounds so strange, but like, I just was like, wait, I need to look at a picture again. It's like, oh, yeah, yeah, okay. Like, or I need to look in the mirror. And so doing mirror work has been helpful. But I
Mm,
also believe part of that is like, it might sound a little woo woo, but it's because I identify with my soul so much and that has no form. And I'm very lucky to inhabit a nice form. Like, I love myself and I like myself. Um, but I think that these things change. It's not stagnant. I used to be a child and I'm going to be an old person one day, and they all morph and change. And so I think like maybe I have less emphasis on that because of what I felt growing up and then becoming who I am today, though I'm happy about it. Yeah, that's a long story
mm,
short. It took me a while to remember what I look like. And I'm glad I'm not too attached to it because it does change and it will change. And I have to like,
absolutely.
I remember when I got my surgery, like looking in the mirror, and it was the first time I appreciated my neck, you know?
Mm,
And
mm,
I was like, oh man, like this is never a part of the body that I like thought I would have to deal with.
there you go.
And your hair falling out or those sort of
Yep.
things. It's like,
Yep.
yeah, you can't be so attached to it because and
Right.
that's why I care about like the connection because that is something that's just going to be ever present.
I have a challenge for those that are watching and listening, and also for those that may already have potion, and those that are looking to get it after we've explained all of this right now. I'm sure people are like, okay, how can we get it? What can we get? Um, I would challenge those based on what we just talked about. I would challenge people to get potion, do the mantra, but do the mantra in the mirror.
Yeah, I like that. And the mantra is my body is strong, it's just brimming with vitality. I actually changed the mantra here and there. That's the one that I used most frequently. Can you pull it up? Because I don't
Sure.
have my card. I
Yes.
don't have my card on me.
Oh, let me
But
see.
what's been really fun and beautiful is in like the last year since I've launched the business, I actually changed my mantra here and there. We have a lot of people who want to have good health. And so this one really focuses on health. But now I even say other mantras like I'm a magnet for miracles.
Where is it on
Or
here?
it's under the if you click on potion, it says shop. Yeah, you can click on any of those.
Okay, let's go here.
And you scroll down.
There it is.
There
Yes.
it is.
Oh,
I am
yes.
I am healthy. I feel vibrant. My body is strong. So there's three, right? I am healthy. I feel vibrant. And then my body is strong.
Ooh.
And I would say this all the time. And then I saw the results, right? Like the magic is within you. That's the whole point of potion is like, yes, these things will help and strengthen your immune system, lower inflammation in the body. But I want you to just love yourself and your life and love the act of taking care of yourself because that's going to take it to the next level. That's going to shift vibrationally what you attract into your life.
Well said. Beautiful. So as you guys see, and obviously I'm going to put all the proper information in the show notes and direct you straight to Potion. But the website is takeyourpotion.com. And you may have noticed when I pulled up this earlier, they've got the ionic copper bristle body brush. They've got
Yep.
a
We
detox
also have
box.
did the detox box with the tongue scraper. So all the radiation I did had really poor impacts on my dental oral health. Tongue scraping has been used in Ayurveda for over 5,000 years. We also have a copper vessel to filter your water, but your tongue is basically a map of your health. And there is a very defined way that you should clean it with a copper tongue scraper. It really will help with breath. It'll help with oral health. It actually removes all of the toxins that build up overnight when you're asleep, and it leaves the good bacteria because your oral microbiome is actually your second most diverse microbiome in the body after the gut. So really important. These are all the things, by the way, the only products we sell are the things that I actually used on a regular basis for my immunity. Beyond that has been sleep and meditation and nutrition. And I'm happy to, if you message me on Instagram or you follow me on TikTok, I do a lot of that education as well.
And where is that? Your Instagram or TikTok?
Yep. So TikTok is my first name at Cimeran, Cimeran, and then Simran Kapur, which is my full name on Instagram, and then Take Your Potion on all the platforms. And we have different content on different places. And our blog actually is also a wealth of information that's on our website, takeyourpotion.com.
So you were on TikTok, you were able to get just at Cimeran, huh?
Yes.
Nice. Well done.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, listen, this has been, I knew it was going to go great. I knew it was going to be a nice conversation. And despite the little hiccup in the beginning, this flowed very well. So we were able to hear each other back and forth, and it was
Yeah,
nice.
I know. I'm so happy for that.
Yeah. So let's be in touch. I'm going to make sure to allow anyone the opportunity, because I think we even discussed doing some lives and things like that. So
Yeah.
be on the lookout for more stuff we're going to do together.
Yeah. Yeah, especially because we got to get people to take care of their inflammation. Again, root cause of disease, number one cause of death. Most inflammatory problems are what is causing people to get sick. And also lack of energy, bad skin, all those sort of things. You just solve it with taking care of your inflammation.
Well, there you have it, everyone. Thanks for your time, Simran. I really appreciate all that you have built and all that you do.
Thank you so much.
And I look forward to staying in touch. And to the listeners and viewers, thank you for your time. If you have any questions, reach out to us. If you enjoyed this conversation, please feel free to share. And until next time. This is
Yep.
Josh
Thanks,
signing off.
everyone. Bye.
Simply walk the talk.
Walk the talk, talking facts. Move like me, but I move a little fast. Make my move, here to last. Fasten these seatbelts, I'm coming past. Take care of me, longevity. Hack my biology, better believe. Walking the talk, soul, mind, and body connected. Better come give us a listen.